Hi there. Today I'm going to demonstrate how you can leverage IntelliMagic Vision to identify if you have enough HP to get the job done. If you're a tool guy or gal, then you may have had a conversation with a vendor about horsepower. The conversation may have gone something like this. You, does the solution have enough horsepower to do the job? Vendor, well, that depends on the job. What is the job? You, I want it to have enough horsepower to cut through any type of wood or metal or cement without burning up the motor. Vendor, that sounds like you need the super duper heavy duty cutting machine. You to your spouse, I researched my new tool and we need the super duper heavy duty cutting machine. Spouse, how much is that going to cost? You, a couple grand. Spouse, no way, get something cheaper. The title of this case study, Do I Have Enough HP, is a play on words. HP could either mean horsepower or Hewlett Packard in this context. While this hypothetical conversation may seem silly, we often have to compromise our ideal solution with a solution that can get financial approval. It is important to know if your actual solution has enough resources to get the job done. In this case, the job is your workload. IntelliMagic has unique knowledge about your hardware's capabilities and automatically inspects your workload to see how close to the hardware capabilities you are at any moment. This capability will be discussed further in this case study. Here we are looking at the HPE 3-par dashboard. In this view, we see a bubble chart summarizing the relative I/O rate and the performance health of the read and write throughput, the overall response time, the front-end response time, and the front-end write response time. Along the y-axis, it shows the different HPE 3-par systems, and along the x-axis, it displays the key risk indicators. Blue dots represent the relative I/O busyness, green dots represent areas of low availability risk, yellow dots represent some availability risk, and red indicates significant risk to availability due to performance constraints. Thresholds are determined based on various modeling techniques to provide a sensible starting point based on the storage configuration and the workloads. In this situation, you see that monetize_2849_5 is showing some warning around the front-end read response time and has a yellow bubble. In the title of the dashboard, you see a rating of 0.13. The rating system is designed to accurately identify potential problems as opposed to flagging false positives. Let's look at the front-end read response time now for this row. We see in this series of charts, each depicting one of the key metrics over time. The only chart with any signs of issues is the front-end read response time, so we will click on this chart. In this case, we don't see correlation between the response time warning and the other metrics, and I'm really just trying to understand if the system is at or near its limits. To show this, I will look at the read and write throughput megabytes per second chart. The read and write throughput megabytes per second chart is now in focus. The single line on this chart represents the average total throughput for the storage system monetize_2849_5. The background colors represent the thresholds. The lighter area indicates a safe area where the system has plenty of room for additional throughput. The light brown warning area represents the threshold for which the system is close to being out of throughput capacity, and the darker exception area that is not shown with relatively low throughput represents the threshold for when the system is reaching its maximum throughput capacity. The rating is based on the percentage of observed time above the warning or exception thresholds. In this case, about 1% of the time the throughput exceeds the warning thresholds. This feature proactively highlights potential areas of performance risk such that the user can investigate the risk and determine appropriate actions prior to the issue significantly impacting production. Next, we will examine the warning and exception thresholds in more detail. You'll see a table with 4 rows in it. The first row is the DSS data rate megabyte per second. There are columns for the shift, the serial, the early warning, and the performance exception. The early warning is the amount of throughput that the system can safely do before it runs into potential performance issues. The performance exception is the amount the system can do before the system components are saturated. While the defaults are a good starting place, the capabilities will vary between HPE 3-par models, so it is important to customize these thresholds upon installation if they seem too conservative. The second row is the fiber data rate per port megabytes per second. The early warning and the performance exception reports can be used to set the throughput capabilities of the individual ports. These are set to a reasonable default based on the port speed. The other rows in this table do not apply to the HP 3PAR, so we will ignore them. The actual early warning and performance exceptions for the HP 3PAR system at the DSS level are set based on the lower of either the DSS data rate thresholds or the sum of the number of fiber ports multiplied by the individual fiber port thresholds. For example, if the DSS data rate early warning threshold is set to 2000 and there are 8 ports active with an individual port throughput of 320, then the cumulative port threshold would be 8 times 320 or 2560 megabytes per second. Since the DSS early warning threshold is lower than 2560, the threshold that will be used will be the 2000 megabytes per second. In most storage systems, when the system's response time starts to increase, it correlates with the throughput capability of the system reaching its limits. The knowledge about systems' throughput capabilities is derived from over 20 years of experience modeling storage systems. IntelliMagic Vision combines knowledge of your configuration, the capabilities of your controllers, and your workload to provide knowledge about the performance capabilities of your systems. If you would like to find out more about IntelliMagic Vision for your environment, please shoot an email to info@intellimagic.com.